No? Okay. I'll find something and I'll put it part of the B-roll. Don't worry. Like I'm sure we're gonna have a few of those.
Yeah. Just I'll let you drive.
All right. That's okay. Then say a prayer because it's about to get bumpy.
That's fine. That's fine. I like a little excitement.
All right. All right, let's do this. Welcome back to Hello Henderson by Desperate Radio. I'm Haas, and with me today is someone very special, someone who I met recently at a networking event, and we hit it off right away. We just connected right away. We talked for a little bit, and I said, you got to come on the show. Mr. Joshua Stacy, I'm not going to give you your intro. I'd like for you to give your own intro. I put something together. I don't think it's going to be as eloquent and as well as you were put it. And you're such a magnetic personality. Please go ahead. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, well, so earlier Haas was trying to put me in a box and said I was an engineer, and that's true. That's true. I'm an engineer, and in my biased opinion, probably one of the best ones, at least in the state, if not on this side of the coast. I don't know. We can go as far as we want on that. But the fact of the matter is, like, I love technology. So ever since I was like a kid, like the first computer that my dad brought home had I think it was a 9600 baud modem on it. It was a Toshiba T1600 that ran at 6 megahertz in basic mode, but in power mode it got to 12 megahertz. And then I saw the modem jack on it, and I was like 10, and I'm like, oh, it can plug into the phone so they can talk to each other. So this is 1992 something. I don't know. I'd have to do the math. I'm 41 now.
Well, AOL, I believe, was popular on 92, 93, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I had either Prodigy.
Well, so at that point, so it was just an MS-DOS piece of shit, right? I grew up relatively poor kid in a poor town. My dad worked for Novell, a company that has long since become a lot less relevant than it was. But that was my first experience with command line and everything. And so sort of from there, like in high school, I took a programming class. So sort of who is Josh? Josh is a guy that's played with computers and tried to figure out the most efficient way of making money. So right out of college, after I dropped out after a year, I went into insurance, did that for a bit, but like I was always like making websites, doing whatever. But yeah, for basically most of my career, I've been self-employed. I've launched easily over 100 projects. Currently, I just launched a prenup tool I'm super friggin' excited about. And I like to say I'm a full stack CEO, meaning like, yeah, I can do the engineering, right? You take a CTO and a CEO and drop them in a blender with a marketing guy, and that's roughly what I am. So I'm an extroverted engineer, happens almost never, which makes it very easy for me to, break down what we're building, doing, and solving it in plain English for anyone. But also I can get pretty deep in the weeds with the nerds. Yeah, that's me.
Which we got a little preview of that when you explained your background and how you first discovered computers and modems. So I love that because I was kind of in the same realm, except that I didn't understand what I was looking at. I said, like, never mind, I just want to play games. So you took it a step further. So you were much more focused on what you wanted to do as opposed to a lazy kid like I was.
I was just bumbling through and exploring. I'm a very curious guy. It's one of the things my wife likes the most about me is I'm super curious. I like to engage with things. I like to take a screwdriver to it. The other thing is on the engineering side, right? We got a lot of coders and stuff. Right? I'm a motherboard up engineer. And realistically, it's power supply up. But like, the fact of the matter is I started off in a very much a desktop computing world. The internet, when you've got even a 56K modem and a 3 gig hard drive, there just isn't a lot you're going to be able to do on 56K. I remember the first time I saw video on a internet video, it was on Real Player. And it was like a 120 by 120 pixel 2-minute clip that took like an hour and a half to download. And it was like of the like Colbert Report or something. And I was like, wow, video. Right. I'm seeing like this video on my like 14-inch tube. And I was like, wow. Wow. Imagine if. So now, we got these tiny pockets of pocket
I know.
supercomputers that connect to satellites. So,
And now we have no patience. If something is taking 2 seconds to load, you're like, I don't have patience with this. Next.
right, right, right.
I do want to get into Henderson and the community and all that, but because this is, after all, Hello Henderson. So
Hello,
we want you.
Henderson.
Hello, Henderson. But I do want to actually talk about something real quick, and that is, you said I tried to put you in a box. First of all, didn't mean to. Just was
That's fine.
explaining my previous life where I first became a Scrum Master and into Agile. As you know, I'm an Agile coach, and I don't
Yeah.
like that term anymore. I try to think of something else, but I have another podcast called HBS. I'd love for us to have that conversation on the other podcast, but that's a story for another day. Because when I first started, Agile coaches or project managers or scrum masters and engineers, they just butt heads and things kind of go sideways. But I've learned over the years how to communicate and talk so I can establish a good, healthy relationship with people that I work with.
Or they're actually engaging with it, right? I like it when people are pushing back because I go, okay, great. What is you care enough about what's going on to have an opinion, and so let's kick that around.
Yeah. But let's save that for HBS. How about that?
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
All right. Let's talk about Henderson and the community and your business and what the heck are we talking about today? First of all, you already know that I moved here not too long ago, and we met and we talked about what am I doing here, how long you've been here, and let's talk about that story. First of all, where did we meet? We met at Tech Alley event. Tell us about Tech Alley Henderson. What were you there promoting?
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna pick on Henderson a little bit. So they like to think that they're not Las Vegas. So I live, for those that don't know, if you're in Henderson and you drive to Vegas and you keep heading in that direction of northwest, eventually you'll find a place where there's bunnies and quail and hummingbirds, and that's where I hang out, right next to the mountains, basically. And so fact of the matter is, without Las Vegas, Henderson wouldn't be that interesting. But Henderson really does have its own sort of personality and persona. And so what we've been seeing in Las Vegas, there's been some different waves of trying to get technology here. The casinos and entertainment industry is huge. But outside of that, they're really like when Tony Hsieh came in with Zappos a while back, he really got some things going. Unfortunately, he became a cautionary tale for don't do whippets. I didn't realize we needed to have cautionary tales for whippets. Of all of the ways that you can do drugs, it just seems like the dumbest one. Literally starves your brain. There's way better things to. Anyway, I digress. So
That's
fast
B-roll
forward.
material. That's definitely B-roll material.
So fast forward, we've got things start picking up, and then COVID hits. Everybody's all isolated. Okay, great. Now, during COVID and coming out of COVID, so Josh Levitt got together with the community and started Tech Alley Las Vegas. And he's actually done Tech Alley in a number of cities. Vegas is far and away the one that really, I'd say, is the strongest. And out of that, I heard about Tech Alley Henderson. So the last one was the 1 year anniversary of Tech Alley Henderson. And I remember the
Yes.
first time I heard about it, there's actually, they had a barbecue for all of the event organizers and stuff. And I remember when Josh Levitt said, we're doing Tech Alley Henderson. And at first I thought, oh noes, because I have friends in Henderson and they come to Tech Alley Vegas. And I'm like, I'll miss seeing them. And what's happened really is Tech Alley Henderson's turned more into like a sort of more small business, like Tech Alley, than sort of startup technology Tech Alley. And so the content, I think, is actually a lot more grounded for where a lot of businesses are at. A lot of times when people are thinking about a startup or a new business, they're not thinking about, I'm going to go IPO in 7 years. They're saying, I don't like the job I have now. I don't like where things are headed. I'd like to do my own thing. And I think that there's a lot of, for the solopreneurs, wantrepreneurs, that's the one. And sort of those things, like they need a lot of different kinds of support. And so what Tech Alley has done, one of the things that's particularly important, sort of like the DNA of Tech Alley, is it's meant to be accessible, meaning anyone can come. It's free, which means anybody can come, and it's consistent. And so for example, Tech Alley Vegas, the third Saturday of every month for the last 4 or 5 years at this point has been Tech Alley. It's happened every month. And so with that sort of consistency, it helps folks, plan around it. They've got all that figured out. And it's really been developing. Love it. Recently got some inroads with the Vegas Chamber, which I'm super excited about because we've got a lot of like part of what makes Las Vegas interesting is it's down to 2.5 million people that all know each other. So I ran for public office last election cycle. I got 28% of the vote in Nevada Senate District 6 with $1,500. My opponent had $100,000, and well, so people like me. People like me. It was interesting, but a part of what's really interesting about being involved in a community like this is, for a new business, a new tech, a new whatever. A lot of times you'll need things that a small business community or a mid-sized business community can really help provide early on if we're all sort of playing on the same team. And so I think what Tech Alley, both Tech Alley Henderson and Tech Alley Las Vegas have done is really create a community where people actually get to know each other, see each other. I'll give you a success story of Tech Alley Vegas, which is older. I have two engineers that came to work for me. Now, they did sort of part-time gig work. They were able to upskill because I am sort of right. For those that are deeply technical, like right, I'm a motherboard up engineer. I build my own cloud. We run full stack everything. I'm not on Amazon. When Amazon has outages, we don't. Not that I expect this to continue to be the case. However, I'd like it. I have better uptime than Amazon this year. We've had 0 outages, and they've had some. And so that's a pretty nice little feather in the cap. Now we're running a much smaller network and all this other stuff. But what's happened is because, for example, I'll pick on the most recent guy here. He started a new job this last couple of weeks here. And the reason why he got the job, oddly enough, so he's a front-end engineer. For those that don't know what that means if you go to a website, the things that you see, that's what he works on, not the stuff on the back that makes it work. I'm a back-end engineer. I'm full stack. It's whatever it is I'll run at.
You're under the hood. You're under the hood. You work under the hood of the car.
Run and go fast. The front end guys like to paint it and put on the decals.
Yes.
And so as a first principles engineer saying I like building the thing, I'm colorblind. We have 3 sets of cones in our eyes. I only have 2, so reds and greens I get them up. So I always knew I'd be a terrible graphic designer. People would look at my stuff and think it's awful. So I never really dove deep in it like you need on interface. So there's buttons and clicks and we can do that. But I use templates and stuff. Anyway, all that to say, this engineer who was a front-end engineer primarily, he worked with me for about a year and I got him involved in everything. And so when he was out applying for jobs, he actually got a back-end job, ironically enough, because he had front-end experience. So he got a lot of back-end experience with my company. Then he went out and applied for back-end jobs. And when they're doing the interview process, they're like, oh, you also know front-end? So that brought him to the top of the list because he was able to upskill. And so, the mission of my company, Big TB, is to democratize access to information, technology, and opportunity. So you might think, well, this guy went to go work for another company. Isn't that a setback to you? No, for 3 reasons. 1, he did really great work with us. 2, he's still working with us a little bit and keeping up. We're not losing any ground. He's still supporting the projects he's worked with us. And 3, the mission is to democratize access to information, technology, and opportunity. We helped an engineer upskill and go get another job. That's awesome. That's a success story. And that came directly from Tech Alley. I met this guy at Tech Alley. We got to know each other a little bit. There was some trust. We worked on some smaller projects, worked on some bigger projects. And so I think we're seeing the tech community actually grow quite a bit. And so it's new, it's young, it's growing, but it's growing.
I think the identity of Henderson starts really standing on its own once you get to know its people and its community. And I believe you kind of covered that when you said because of Tech Alley, because of the fact that you met a few folks at Tech Alley and a couple of them came and worked for you, and now they're growing into their own and they're thriving because of the community that's provided here that's helping people not just meet each other, but help each other grow. Is that a right statement? Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, I'll dive even in a little deeper. So at this point, just you know this, but whoever's watching this might not. I made a prenup tool that's heavily AI driven. It's fully customizable for the individual. We take, if you go to an attorney to get an attorney, it's going to be 5, 10, 15 grand. We bring that price down to $500. and it is fully customized. You're really engaging with it, and it's not just here's a prenup to protect your assets. It's let's plan the relationship. And so we actually, one of the 7 sections that we do the ingestion on, it's about the relationship. It doesn't have anything to do with bank accounts or custody or whatever. It's just like, let us get to know you. Then we ask about bank accounts, custody, property, all this stuff. We make a document that's warm and cuddly that everybody agreed on. And so I bring this up to say, I initially only started playing with ChatGPT because I went to a Tech Alley session and they did a walkthrough on it. And I'm like, okay, I guess I should start playing with this. And this was years ago, but unless I would have gone to that, I wouldn't have gotten engaged with it as quickly. And so I think a part of what's happening is, I mean, if we think about the internet, most of the internet was developed by backyard engineers. These were guys that were in their basement, in their garage, and no one really like it wasn't like the cool thing to do. The whole tech bro culture, I'm a startup grab, all of that. It was like, what are these idiots doing playing with their transistors and stuff? And so now to see it develop like that, you know, in order for that to happen, a lot of times there were open source discussion boards. Folks were really engaging and sharing, and that whole culture of just sharing knowledge and information is what helped be a catalyst for a lot of really great innovation. And so, like at the Tech Alley sessions, at this point, I've probably been to Tech Alley Vegas. So I've been to Tech Alley Henderson probably 3-4 times. Tech Alley Vegas 40 to 50. And I presented a bunch. I've hosted sessions. I host the demo time so people can come and show their stuff if they like. Hey, I'm working on this. Hey, I'm working on that. And it really creates an environment where people can ask questions, better understand people. I'm able to like, one of the things that I think people do not understand about the Las Vegas and Henderson technology ecosystem is we've got a lot of talent here, not just like, oh, I do React, oh, I do Agile, oh, I do this, but like we've got folks that like do machine controllers for like robotics and stuff. We actually have a really great robotics community in Vegas, and they actually use a lot of times they'll do stuff down by Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
And they do interesting stuff. And so I think what's been really interesting to see grow is seeing people actually come out to these events and start getting excited about it and say, well, I can actually like look and talk to someone that's in my community and ask some questions and get engagement. In fact, one of the things that I don't know if this is you heard it here first, might be.
Go ahead. Hold
We're
on.
looking
Breaking
at
news, everyone. Go ahead.
yeah, early. We're looking at launching a Tech Alley incubator. So part of the problem is we don't have a lot of. So for the full ecosystem of growing tech companies, you need to be able to take like seedling ideas, little stuff, nurture that, get it bigger, get it bigger, get it bigger. And we've got pieces of the chain, but we don't have the whole thing. And so what I'm planning on leading that. I'm going to probably have 4 to 8, 6 to 8, 6 to 10, something like that, startups. And one of the things that's pretty unique is so part of so my company is really a lot more like a venture studio, in the sense that we're building lots of things. So in the last 5 years, we've launched almost 300 products. Most of them have not been anything significant, but we've been working on perfecting the craft of that. How do you get the first product out the door? How do you really get engagement on it? All of that stuff. And so what we're going to be doing is there's a lot of founders that might be good operation, but they're not like visionary. I have this dream. I want to keep this thing running. I've got a good idea, or not even necessarily I've got a good idea. I want to work on a startup, but I don't know what to do. And so I'm going to be sort of stalking the pond a bit here and saying, we've got at this point, we always have more vetted projects than we have resources to push out. So put some teams behind them. And like the other thing that's really exciting about this is, we're working on, this is sort of as part of the same effort, but a little bit different, basically working on equity instruments that let folks that are engaging and working on building stuff earn sweat equity on projects without having to be married to them. So you can do 2-3 weeks on something, hit a deliverable, do whatever. And the whole premise of this is to take some of that early legwork, de-risking a venture, and then make it more attractive. So that way at the end of the incubator, once they're done with that, probably 6-8 weeks, something like that, they're much more investable, and the venture's been de-risked. And so I think what we're seeing is more and more attempts to sort of cover all of the areas that new innovation needs, instead of it just being a patchwork, having it actually be pretty cohesive. So Pretty excited about that, to be honest.
That is some exciting news. And by the way, nothing like being on a podcast that barely has any followers or to introduce, some news that nobody that you're not supposed to talk about it. I think you're safe. I think you're okay for now.
I'm sure I'm safe. I'm sure I'm safe. I look.
All right.
There are a lot of people that bleed into the community. Josh Levitt comes to mind. Lorraine's done a fantastic job getting Tech Alley Henderson going. There's a lot of people that bleed into it. And one of the things that I love about this community is it really is community. Let's say let's say I messed up sometime. Let's say I made a mistake, made a prop. There's enough goodwill in the community. It's Josh. Right. At this point I've probably right, and all of the Tech Alley folks that run sessions, it's all volunteer based, to my understanding. Yeah. And so at this point, I mean, I've probably volunteered, and Tech Alley is a nonprofit, and so I've done a lot of community service. So maybe I should go rack up some charges so that way I can cash this in for a get out of jail free card or something. I don't know. It's a funny, like there's anything you can do wrong here. You can drink in public, you gamble or about. What a lovely town. I just love it here.
Hey, okay, so let's touch on that a little bit. Let's talk about how the difference is almost night and day, not completely, between Las Vegas proper, as some people say, and Henderson. You got the drinking, the gambling, the partying, the everything in Las Vegas. There is this sense of a whole different world once you cross over onto Henderson.
Bullshit.
My wife and I were talking about it in the last episode. There are no billboards with half-naked people on it. There are no people squandering around or walking around or falling over each other on the freeway or on the maybe some neighborhoods are worse than others.
Let me ask you this. Is there gambling?
There is, but I don't know if it's the excessiveness of Las Vegas, and that's why I say I don't know if it's night. I don't know if night and day is a
It's more like the regional thing, right? So even in Vegas, right, we've got the downtown Fremont Street experience, we've got the Strip, and you've got these like regional casinos like Red Rock, Durango, stuff like that.
Right, Henderson, the Pass Casino where we met, where we have the Tech Alley Henderson.
Exactly. The Pass Casino is more like a regional casino. So all this to say, if Henderson truly wanted to divorce itself from the Las Vegas debauchery, they need to close their casinos. Because let's be honest, that's debauchery. And I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying they should be honest about what they're.
Okay, but let's talk about the highlights of Henderson. What does Henderson offer that Las Vegas doesn't?
Well, so Henderson likes to pride itself in being like a more family town. So if Las Vegas is, the big party in the desert, I think, so for example, Henderson alleged, I might be wrong on some of this. I'm sure there's some Henderson enthusiasts that can help clear this up, but like they pride themselves in being very walkable and having bike paths. And like I think the brand of Henderson is a lot more, it's a small town. It's more insulated. Like fair point about the billboards of the naked ladies and all of that. There's a lot less, I would say, public sleaze in Henderson. It's more family friendly, but it's still like 20 minutes away from all of the fabulous debauchery available at the Fremont Street experience or on the Strip.
Yeah. I think this goes back to something that I've always believed in. If the debauchery can be right next door, it's up to us as not just community, but let's say in your own household, as parents, as adults, as responsible people, to tell our kids, hey, this is over there. You're not ready for that. When you are responsible enough to handle the consequences that comes with going over there, you can be there. But for now, you stay here. So that's just a philosophical, that's just my way of thinking. It's kind of like my kids and cell phones. I have a 10 and 11-year-olds and they want cell phones and we say no. It's not just a matter of no, and that's the final answer. I go to whether it's phones or games or going out or makeup or clothes. I say, I know you're eventually going to do all that one day, the partying, the drinking, the going out, the gambling, all that stuff. But there's a set of responsibilities that comes with that you're not prepared for. And I feel like it goes back to family, community, and parents to make sure that that's instilled. And I do feel that Henderson does provide that kind of vibe where they say, hey, Las Vegas is over there. Yeah, we have some regional casinos, as you say.
The fact of the matter is, Henderson, compared to a Midwest town, right? Wichita, Kansas, something like that, it's going to be a rowdy town. But
Right.
next to Las Vegas, it's the mild mannered, well behaved uh, cousin, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it does value. I mean, going back to the what you're talking about with your kids there, like, so in some ways, so the way I grew up with the internet, right? When I was in high school, like there was dial up and AOL Instant Messenger, not all of these immersive doom scrolling algorithms that can literally just rewire your brain.
Yeah.
And so the way I say it is sort of like I grew up like as the internet grew up, and so I didn't have all of that. But like they're really like so actually so there's the intersection of tech and tobacco with teenagers, the TTT. Right. So we have a lot of depression with kids these days. A lot of depression, which is wild because I'm assuming when you grew up, you and I had similar toys. We had a
Yeah.
stick, a rock, right? TV,
Basically.
maybe we could watch some things, the
Yeah.
radio. Like, just, okay. It was a simpler time. There's what people would describe as an affordability crisis in terms of housing, food, everything. Now, in Nevada, we do pay more for groceries. We're like the third most expensive groceries in the world, but we're also getting apples in the middle of the desert. So, like, okay, that's probably worth a little bit more. Um, your burgers are going to have to be imported and they're going to be like 20% more. Okay, fine. We'll get over that. But there's no state income tax. And I'll tell you why, in a tech perspective, why this is really exciting. So there's section 1244 of the U.S. tax code. Let me ask you this. I think I know the answer. How well versed are you on section 1244 of the U.S. tax code? It might be a different. I think it's 1244. Whatever it is, there's an exclusion on cap gains. What this means is if you buy qualified small business stock, you buy stock in a tech company, and you wait 5 years. Used to be a $10 million exclusion, up to $10 million, so up to 10x your investment, or up to 10 million, whichever is more, was excluded from cap gains. Which means if you invest in a local Nevada startup, Henderson, Vegas, wherever, 5 years they have an exit, you can pay literally zero cap gains, zero tax on that. So if you're, and on top of that, we've got access, right? We've got direct flights to basically anywhere in the world. You've got very affordable housing. You get out of Vegas and get to Henderson, it's even more affordable. And there's like real communities there. And like people actually, like, one of the things that really surprised me about Las Vegas in general and about Nevada in general is people are typically actually pretty friendly. And so you go into Henderson and it's even in many ways more so than Las Vegas. And so you've got, like if you're like, hey, I'm working on this thing, like people will actually talk to you. So like, for example, there's a lot of folks with ideas that need refinement, they need feedback, they need people to talk to about it. And if you're in a community where people are open to talking about it, they'll engage with it, they'll help you kick your ideas around. Like that's enormously supportive. Like there's Sean Gigramosa with Clarative is at a house in Henderson, and they've got this AI startup, and it's doing well. It's bootstrapped, which I respect the hell out of, and there's not a lot of places where they can do it. You can't bootstrap a startup in, San Francisco when rents are what they are relative to Henderson. The quality of life you're going to have in Henderson. Here's the other thing. Take a look at Henderson. There's an enormous amount of conferences that come here. So whatever industry you're in, whatever connections you're trying to get, this really is like a hub. It is growing. It is growing.
Based on my experience so far, seems like everyone, well, almost everyone wants to see you succeed. Very seldom do you get someone that wants to see you fail. What do you think?
There's a very small amount of that in the sort of Henderson, Las Vegas ecosystem. There's a few people who I think should be taken out back and lectured a bit. Maybe they'd behave better. But the fact of the matter is, by and large, like what really surprised me. So my wife grew up in a small town in Virginia, and we spent some time there, and it did have that small town feel, right? Small town feel. You go down to like the diner, and it's like the 10 people there have seen each other every day for the last 375 years or whatever. Like it's a town where people like each other. They're invested in each other. And I was really surprised about sort of how warm Nevada is. Like, and the joke I make, and there might actually be a fair bit of truth to it, is Like the sun, it gets so hot here and it's just trying to kill us all. So we're just trying to like survive. So we don't need to be beefing with each other. Like we're just all trying to not literally freaking overheat to death.
You mentioned hub. Is it your opinion that Henderson is becoming the next tech hub or the new tech alley? It seems to me like Henderson is great for anyone that wants to have opportunities to get noticed and grow.
Yeah, well, so if we're talking about tech, I have some spicier takes. I'll keep to myself here, at least in this one. The fact of the matter, so I'll reference it, but not by name. There've been a lot of forces in the tech sector over the last 5, 10, 20 years that have eroded sort of this, like engineering by and large has been performance based. We need to make the rocket go 1,000 feet in the air, make the rocket go 1,000 feet in the air. We don't care who has the ideas, what the ideas are. It's just a team trying to make the thing happen, whatever it is. So if you're new in tech or you want to get into tech, the very best thing you can do is start playing with things, start learning things, start getting engaged with it. And so that's where, you know, for the engineers that have worked with us and upskilled, like they get opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise, right? Making another little website for a company, no one really cares if you can make a website anymore. On the other hand, if you can make, you know, data flows that can actually automate things and really improve the way that a business operates, that's huge. And so when people are thinking, well, I need to have this thing done, can you do it? When I say, for example, like my prenup builder tool, I'm super excited about, like in my biased opinion, it is or is near it either is the most advanced AI powered prenup tool on the market, or it's nearly the most advanced like it's not a weak product. And so when you're able to display like that's an emerging tech that's super relevant. And so if you want to get into tech, like start playing with that. And if you don't know that, come down to some tech alley events, right? Start talking to people. Like the trade-off that I'll make usually, and like, you know, a lot of times people don't want to be upskilling and training. For the 1 year I went to college, I actually went to be a technology teacher. I really like teaching. And so the whole point on that is, well, let me go ahead and like, so I enjoy that. A lot of people don't. But it is an investment. Like I got good rates on the guys that were working with us while they're upskilling because part of the compensation was getting upskilled, you know, but then you go and you get a nice sweet job after, you know, doing some upskilling, and they worked on, I'm going to politely say, some very reasonable rates. I deeply appreciate them. They've helped us move the cause along. But like a part of it is like the number one, I guess you didn't ask this question, but I'll answer it anyway. If you're wondering if you would do well in tech, right? If you're like, I think I want to get into engineering, I think I want to do these things, right? The number one success metric I've seen for folks working with me is, are they genuinely curious and want to solve the problem? So if you're the type of person where they're like, you're tinkering with something and you just can't go to bed at night because it's messing with you, or you go to bed at night and your head's just racing, like, how does this thing happen? So frequently I'll have a 5-10 paragraph prompt that I punt over to chat to get an answer because I want them to really understand what's going on. And so that's where really trying to master understanding what it is that you're working on, becoming obsessed with it. If you're sort of obsessive compulsive like that, it's never been a better time to play with computers, my biased opinion.
And how about folks that are not techie? Are there opportunities for some people with soft skills in operations?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times we'll think about like a startup founder as being, you know, some lead code engineer that just does or does not puff on a glass piece for inspiration, but just sits down and like a code monkey, right? Or they're these visionaries. Oh, I imagine a world where blah, blah, blah. But the reality is those two personas help, but ultimately, for companies to any real scale, like you do need the operations people. Like one of the, like I have a lot of fun building things. I'm a wartime CEO. I like large, complicated problems, and preferably I like things on fire. That's when I'm calm. I love the chaos. Part of the reason why we're doing so many project launches at Big TB is so I had a company I launched a while back. At its peak, it was doing around $60,000 a month of revenue top line on about $20,000 a month of expenses. And if I would have just done the work myself, I could have brought that down to like $5,000 a month, making $500,000 a year. Fact of the matter is, I once it hits that point, I'd rather pay the staff to do that and go do the other thing. And the nice thing for the operations people is when something catches on fire, great, come find me. Because that's when it's really interesting for me. There's sparks or there's fire. We got angry customers. We've got things that are in chaos. Then I can. So the whole premise on this is, over a 10-year window, we're working on launching 1,000 projects. So far, of the 300 or so we've launched, 7 have made money. And if you consider the amount of startups that spend 5 years trying to make their first dollar, and we have 7 product lines that have made at least their first $1,000, if not much more, like we're in a very different space, and we're getting really good at that first little bit there. But at that point, that's a great time for a non-technical person to take over or to work with it, because there is, like just the customer service, the social media marketing. If you're someone that can just write and communicate online, there's a lot of different places that you can fit in on that. And I also, I think in terms of like Henderson and Las Vegas, we're looking at a situation where, why do people come from all over the world, right? We've got like around 1 million people a week come from all over the world to have experiences in Vegas. And the people that are in Vegas and the people that are in Henderson make those possible. And so we could take those same operators, the same, right, the rank and file members of the corporations, like they're important. And so, part of the problem with COVID was it shut down the major industry here. And so there's a lot of incentive to diversify. And that's a part of why, going back to the Tech Alley incubator we're looking at here, is I don't need someone to be a visionary. I'm so visionary and my team is so technical. I can hand you a working SaaS product. But at some point, like, people need to go out and know about it. So all that to say, I think that as communities propping up new ventures, there's new opportunity for kind of everybody across the board. Because here's the other thing, this prenup tool, we'll walk through. I'll do some numbers porn here. So there's about 2 million people a year that get married in the U.S. 85% of them don't get a prenup. I have a prenup tool that sells them for 500. That's if half of the people, million of them a year, gave me $500, that's $500 million a year. Now, the product is perfectly capable of fulfilling that type of demand. However, in order to get it out there, like, it takes people. Now, here's the other thing. Let's say Big TB has a nice windfall. 1, we're going to create more jobs here for sure. 2, all right, we mentioned all of the debauchery, the drinking, the gambling, the whoring about. I'm going to be spending money. There's just no way around that. And so when you take a look at, like, one of the things that's really neat about internet companies and technology companies is, like, for example, like with me, like, I'm an alchemist in some ways. I bring value wherever I put my feet. And I don't mean that like you're graced by my presence, but I do internet business and revenues come to me from all over the country and world, mostly all over the country. And so when we have something that's working, right, I'm going to the grocery store here. I'm getting my oil changed here. I'm going and doing things here. I'm spending money with local vendors. And so the whole premise of, I think a part of what I also mentioned this, since we're talking about tech, we've got great infrastructure here. We've got great internet connections. We've got Switch as a data center. TensorWave has a lot of AI infrastructure. So it's not even like one of the things that I think is crazy, right? I take a Lyft, right? It bothers the hell out of me that I take a Lyft, because Silicon Valley and Silicon Valley investors are making money when a Vegas driver or a Henderson driver is driving me and I'm here in Nevada. So the whole transaction's happening in Nevada and money's going out of Nevada. That bothers me a little.
What would you say is your favorite thing about this community and the city of Henderson?
So I grew up a devout Mormon until almost 30. Mormons settled Las Vegas and Henderson. And there's sort of 2 things about that have really shaped the way that I interact with people. One, for those that don't know, Mormons are very community oriented. So if I'm in a community that values community, I'm in my natural element. When I went to Tech Alley, Las Vegas, and I met Josh Levitt, and he's, we're all trying to get along here. I'm like, oh, that's great. And, I've been here almost 4 years. And I found if I reach out my hand in warmth, that's what I get back. And I do genuinely value the connection, right? The fact of the matter is I'm not very transactional with people. Like, whether we agree or don't agree on something, that doesn't really, I'll wrap up to the second thing. So I'm going to go real deep into Mormon dogma here. So there's the 12 tribes of Israel. And you might think, wow, why are we going all the way here? Don't worry, I'll land the plane very short. So each tribe has its own sort of job, duty, thing to do to usher in, the kingdom of God, so to speak. So the tribe that I'm from is supposed to unify the tribes. So at a DNA visceral level, from when I was very young, I valued everyone trying to get along, whether they viewed things the way I do or not. And so you might not know where that's coming from when you interact with me, but it's hard to ignore how much I really try to have a genuine connection with people. And I don't like I genuinely I have a big heart. I care about people, and it shows. And what's nice about that is when I show that, I usually get it back. Not always. Certainly when I was in LA, that was not the case.
You are truly a genuine guy. I've known and felt that from the moment I saw you talk on stage at Tech Alley. Good people just know good people. I've been alive long enough to know and recognize good, genuine, authentic people. And that is what really attracted my family and I to Henderson. Aside from the cost of living, obviously, but the people and their authenticity.
Yeah, and it's so one of the reasons I think that's the case. So when I was in LA, our one bedroom, I think now it goes for more than $5,000 a month. This beach here, this is the Marina Del Rey Pier. So during COVID, this is where I was stuck. Right, the geography of it, love it. But I didn't get the warm fuzzies that I get here, and that I was so the part of the reason why my company's trying to build 1,000 projects is very straightforward. I launched a product that did like almost $4 million in revenue. It was just me fighting the world basically. And I said, look, I could go do that again and then probably retire. Or what if I took the systems and everything and tried to make it where I could spread the opportunity horizontally? In order for that to work, I have to be in a warm, cuddly environment where people want to be collaborative. Otherwise, I might as well just go do things myself. And so in a very literal sense, outside of this community, I don't know where else Big TB would be able to grow like it did, right? It's very symbiotic, right? The local engineering talent, I've done a lot of training on different things. I've helped a lot of folks, make connection, and I've helped upskill the actual talent here. I've paid engineers in Las Vegas and in, I don't know if in Henderson yet, but I've paid folks in Southern Nevada to do engineering work and created actual technology opportunity right here in Nevada. Like I say, I'm an alchemist. Wherever I set my feet, I create opportunity. But creating opportunity is one thing. People taking advantage of is quite another. And so I will say part of the reason why I think people are able to do that is the cost of living here is a lot lower, right? If you're spending $5,000 a month in rent, you've got to pay all of the California taxes, all this other stuff. Like you're in a different mental state, almost more of a survival mode versus, if you got a roommate, you're paying $700 a month in rent. Guess what? If your monthly nut is $1,000 a month, you're going to be in a better mood, right? I mean, one of the things I used to hang out with so when I lived in Marina Del Rey, I'd go out and smoke a joint because, that's the kind of place it was. And I'd hang out with the security guards. And they'd point out how, this is a nice area, nice area. Probably 10% of the units there get eviction notices on a monthly basis. That's stressful. How can you really engage with your community if you're not sure where you're going to live?
How has Henderson changed 5 years ago, and where do you see it 5 years from now?
Okay, well, first of all, I wasn't here 5 years ago, so it's already better. Yeah. So within a year, so first of all, then I show up, that got better. I will say I'm excited to see the momentum with Tech Alley Henderson and with Tech Alley Las Vegas. It seems very synergistic. I think that in a lot of ways the Tech Alley Vegas model is sort of the footprint or it's the model, right? It's the model of sort of how things can go. One of the things I think Lorraine did a fantastic job of is getting local Henderson government involved. And so they're actually getting a lot of support, and they're creating, like, I'll tell you, one of the things that Las Vegas has done that has really helped me is they opened up some co-working space, the Innovation Center downtown, for people to do events. And I don't know if it's still the case, but they didn't charge it. So I hosted like 5 events there. I went to a ton, like Startup NV used to do stuff there. And when you have that type of support where there's a meeting space with decent parking people can get to do a thing, it helps serve as a catalyst. And so I think within Henderson, 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't a tech alley Henderson. There wasn't really even an understanding of how to interact with this market. And so Vegas has a larger pool of talent to draw on. There's way more engineers that are like, you know what? I don't want to live in San Francisco. I'd rather live in the party capital of the world with direct flights to everywhere, no income tax. And so I think that what's happened is there's a lot of talent there, but Henderson hasn't really had anything for people to sink their teeth into. Now with Tech Alley Henderson and the network that's being created around that, there's a lot more internal support. So if you're doing something like Clarative in with Sean Gigramosa there, like there is support. Like one of the things that's really changed in a lot of ways is there is excitement and interest about supporting local tech. And so by building those bridges and reinforcing them, I think it's a really positive trajectory. Like Tech Alley Las Vegas has really blown the doors open on a lot of community network. I think it's the best community event in any of the Las Vegas stuff. And so for it to be able to have that satellite out to Henderson, I think it's giving a place for stuff to take root.
Tell me your thoughts about success and legacy. How do you define success and legacy, and what is yours?
One of the reasons to do the 1,000 projects isn't even necessarily to succeed at it. Like I'd like to succeed at it. I think we're going to succeed at it. That's fine. Things are going well now. But part of it is what I really want to do is bend the curve of human innovation. And so if there's this curly-haired freak out in the desert that is with a magnificent beard that's launching tons of projects, people are competitive, right? I say I'm doing 1,000. Maybe someone wants to do 10,000, or that inspiration, right? Because, and I'll share why. So I have a daughter that had 4 brain surgeries before she was 2. We weren't sure she would live till age 3. Good news is she turns 11 next year, and that's a miracle. I don't know what her life expectancy will be. She's still got a lot of health issues. She's cognitively delayed, but at this point she's lived for 4 to 5 times as long as her doctor thought. And I'm willing to be grateful for that. The reason why my daughter, who's nonverbal autistic, can actually communicate with the world is partially because of tablet technology, which wasn't built specifically to help disabled little girls be able to connect with the world around them. Yet this is where we've ended up. She has friends. She can explore. She doesn't speak, but she's able to communicate with everyone around her at school, her friends, her mom, all this other stuff. And so I think that I could never repay my gratitude to the engineers that made that possible. But what I can do is be a shining example of what's possible and challenge folks. And that's a part of why I like doing the upskilling, right? We have more qualified quality engineering talent in Las Vegas now. It's going to sound a little patting myself on the back, but yes, because I went down and bare knuckle fought with technology and helped get really one-on-one training and hands-on experience with local talent working with local businesses. And so the ripple effect of someone seeing one of the presentations I give, right? Like the one I did about the prenup tool, right? A lot of people left that room feeling pretty energized. And I don't care as much about them being engaged on the thing that I'm engaged about, like great. But part of what makes America such a great country is we've got so many different people doing so many different things. And so, I think one of the things that held me back earlier in my career, and probably still to some degree, was I thought there were other people who were smarter, more resourced, whatever, that could do the things that I wanted to do. And I waited 2 years to launch a product that ultimately ended up making me more money than anything I've ever made in my life. And I had the idea, I had it spec'd out, I had the money, and I said, no, if this was a good idea, someone else would do it. And so if a part of my legacy is inspiring folks to say, let's just accept as a foregone conclusion you might fail and then be done with that. But what if you didn't fail? What if when you went out there and you went after the thing, it actually worked? I think that's when people aren't afraid of failure, the game's different. I can tell the folks that are doing things when they're worried about failing versus when and honestly, my favorite is when they've accepted the fact that they're probably going to fail. Startups fail literally 99% of the time. They never make $1. And so you have to, as a starting point, just to play in this game, you have to accept you're probably going to fail. And then you have to forget that and just go full and warmly embrace, I'm going to chase this thing. And that's when you get a lot of engagement. And that's where you see people really pushing themselves and not holding themselves back. Like that was, if I could, give myself some advice when I was younger, like, don't hold myself back. The whole world will hold me back. Fine. Right. We've got virtually everything's out of our control, but we don't need to be kneecapping ourselves when we're chasing things. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer.
That was an incredibly strong message and even more powerful story about your daughter. I knew about it when you talked at the last Tech Alley event, and I was moved by it, especially having two girls at that same age. I was moved, and I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing it with us. I'm just as touched as the first time I heard it.
Well, and this just really reinforces a part of what's cool about this community. A lot of the hard parts, right? I was fighting with IPv6 and right, I'm a network administrator. So like I connect computers to the internet so the entire world can access something. That's technically complicated. But like one of the things that's harder about startups and new business than anything else is just getting your teeth kicked in and being able to have a community where you can talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I honestly think that's one of the things that is a underappreciated and undervalued asset of the Henderson and Vegas community is, you know, fine. There's not a ton of support the way that you would find it in Silicon Valley and Austin and New York City, but there's a community that will hear your story, want to engage. If they can help, they usually will, and those are intangibles that are invaluable. And so that just sort of reinforces how I love going to Tech Alley. I love seeing people excited about things. Like I get a little bit of business from it, but that's not the primary reason why I go. The primary reason why I go is to engage with community. And there are like a lot of folks out there. I'll pick on Eric with Broccoli. He doesn't come out to Tech Alley a whole lot. It is, he has been, and he presented his thing. So he made, well before AI got popular with the language models, he made an AI powered, not language model powered, but built from their own model, math tutoring system for folks K through 5. And they're working on growing it out. Great. They just recently got some nice support, some nice action, some funding. That's great. They were able to my mind, bend physics. And what they were able to do is they made software that didn't just help kids learn math. It is particularly good at helping special education folks like my daughter. And so what they were able to do is take a student who was, call it 3 years behind, and in a 6-month window, they were able to catch up a year and a half. And so that's a nice special needs student. This isn't saying we're taking a performer and making them a high performer. They're able to because what happens with their software is when the student gives the wrong answer, it infers why they gave the wrong answer and does an intervention to go back and explain it to them in a different way. And so this is one-on-one tutoring, and this is a product developed in Vegas. It's awesome. And that I'll share something. I don't think it's overly personal about him. He did share it with me at Tech Alley when people were around, whatever. His biggest fear isn't whether or not it would succeed. It's mostly like, would it matter? Because he cares so much about this mission, about helping kids learn math, that he wants it to work because he cares about the kids learning math. That's the type of excitement that, I love seeing that in technology. And we've never lived in a time where the types of things that we can do now has been possible. And like people talk about, societies, civilizations rise and fall and whatever. Okay, great. We've never had the internet before, and we've never had these language models before. We keep making better and better tools and better technology. So, the American experiment's about 250 years old at this point. A lot of folks say it's about the point where it's going to decline. I go, I don't know. I do not know, and I will not accept that as a foregone conclusion. So until proven otherwise, I'm just going to be out there being toxically positive on Southern Nevada and on technology and on new ventures. And, I've got enough, excitement that it's contagious. So, yeah, that's my rant about the community and technology and why I love building in Southern Nevada.
Josh, you call it a rant. I call it a very impressive closing statement. And I can't think of a better way to wrap up than this. That was wonderful and inspiring. We need that kind of positive energy and inspiration to infect more people. Josh, how can people reach out to you and get a hold of you?
That's a great question. Depends on what they want. So my username on Instagram, which I don't use a whole lot, but like I'm on there, that's StreamRift. My favorite place is LinkedIn. Some people say I treat it like Facebook or X or whatever, but that is like I love it when people who disagree with me will actually engage in discussion. So if you're out there on LinkedIn, you see me, and you're like, this mother, let me give him a piece of my mind, I would love it. And I will treat people with respect and engage with it because I like that. So yeah, I'd say that. And if it just is, if you have not been to Tech Alley Henderson, if you have not been to Tech Alley Vegas, go there. That honestly would be my favorite place for folks to see me. I don't think I'll be making it to Henderson this month. But yeah, I'd say that. And then, and more important than that, go to these events and say hi to people. You will be very surprised potentially at how friendly and engaging people are. I'll give you a tip. Are you ready for a tip? You might already know this. Here's the easiest way to start a conversation with someone in Henderson and Vegas. You go, how long have you been in Henderson for? Or how long have you been in Vegas for? That's it. And then they say a number. And then if they're not really engaging just yet, you say, oh, and where were you before that? And then let's say they say, oh, I've been here my whole life. You say, well, do you like it? And from there, it gives you enough to really jump off. Because again, right, it's a small town feel. People like having this conversation. You show some interest, you're going to get some interest back. So
that couldn't be more true. I mean, that is exactly how Josh and I met. I just walked up to him after his presentation and we got the talking going. And those are the actual questions we asked each other. If you are out there listening to us right now, make sure you check out Tech Alley Henderson or Tech Alley Las Vegas. If you see either one of us, just stop us and say hi and tell us how long you've been here.
And tell us how long you've been in Vegas or how long you've been in Henderson. What do you like about it? No, that's the other question. What is your favorite thing about Vegas? That's my question. Now, I am toxically positive on Las Vegas, and I treat Henderson as a suburb. Henderson's great too. So,
all right, Josh, anything else about Henderson as we wrap up?
I will say, in wrapping up on Henderson has like art festivals and a lot of outdoor stuff, especially like where you're not going to find that kind of stuff necessarily in Vegas, right? There's a different entertainment option there.
Well, Josh, this has been great. I had such a great time talking with you, and I appreciate your time talking about Henderson, the community, the future, and what to look forward to.
All right, my friend. Well, I have some hate mail to go write and probably receive.
Oh boy, well, I hope it's more playful than spiteful. Thank you so much for listening to Hello Henderson. If you have any comments, questions, or want to be part of the show, please comment below. And please like, subscribe, and share and help us grow this show within the community as it is for and about the community. Until next time, this is Haas and this is Dead Sprint Radio.
And I think we're probably going to get a little philosophical here. We might butt heads on this a little bit.
That's fine. You can be a butthead all along.
Thank you, sir. There's going to be a lot of editing in here. There's going to be a lot of bleeps and editing.
You said you do editing. That's great.
Yeah, but Josh, you got to take it easy on me.
It's fine. I'll give you an even better art. Look, I'm giving you plenty of material to work with.